The night was heavy with silence. Above the mountains, a strange red moon hung low, painting the world in blood-colored light. The air smelled of smoke and dust, and the sound of drums echoed across the valley. Each beat was slow, dark, and final. In now, the center of the ancient temple, a young woman stood chained to a tall stone pillar. The chains cut into her wrists, leaving marks of pain, but she did not cry. Her face was pale, her eyes tired, yet in her gaze there was something the crowd did not expect: defiance. Around her, hundreds of alien figures gathered. Their bodies were tall and twisted, their skin rough like stone. They wore masks made of bone and metal, and in their hands they carried torches that burned with green fire. They raised their voices together, chanting in a language that sounded like thunder mixed with broken glass. It was not a song of joy. It was a song of sacrifice. The woman had been chosen to die. The leader of the aliens stepped forward. His mask was larger than the others, shaped like the skull of a beast. In one hand he carried a black staff carved with symbols that glowed faintly in the red moonlight. He lifted the staff high, and the chanting grew louder. "Tonight," his voice roared, "the gods will drink her blood. Tonight the chains of fate will not be broken. Tonight power will return to us." The crowd shouted with madness. Stones were thrown at the woman. Some hit her legs, some hit her arms. She did not scream. She only closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again with the same fire inside. She was not just a victim. Somewhere, deep inside, she knew this was wrong. The gods they worshipped were lies. The chains around her wrists were heavy, but the heavier chains were the ones around their minds. Lightning flashed in the distance. For a brief second, the temple walls glowed white. The statues of old gods, giant figures carved into the stone, seemed alive, watching the sacrifice with cold, lifeless eyes. The drums beat faster. The alien leader raised his staff higher. The fire in the torches grew wild, blowing in all directions though there was no wind. The air grew hot and the ground trembled. Something ancient was waking beneath the temple. The woman's breathing grew fast, not from fear, but from the strange energy rising in the air. Her heart told her something was about to happen, something that could not be stopped. The leader placed the tip of his staff against her chest. The glowing symbols burned brighter, as if they were drinking her life already. The crowd grew silent. They waited for the moment of blood, the moment when the gods would return. But in the silence, another sound appeared. Footsteps. Soft at first, hidden under the beating of the drums, then louder. Slow, steady, firm. The woman lifted her head. Her eyes searched the shadows beyond the firelight. She felt it before she saw it. Someone was there. The aliens noticed too. Their chanting faltered. Some turned their heads, their glowing eyes scanning the darkness. The leader growled, slamming his staff on the stone floor, but the sound of footsteps did not stop. From the far side of the temple, a figure appeared. A man. He was not like them. His body was smaller, his skin different, his face uncovered. No mask, no torch, no weapon that they could see. His clothes were torn and covered with dust, but his eyes burned like fire. The crowd hissed, whispering in anger and confusion. A human, a stranger. The leader of the aliens laughed. "You, come here, weak creature, to watch her die. You think you can stop fate?" The man did not answer. He stepped closer, his boots echoing on the stone floor. Step by step he walked past the angry crowd. They pushed at him, spit at him, but he did not look away from the woman chained to the pillar. His gaze was locked only on her. The woman's heart raced. She did not know who he was, but she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. The leader pointed his staff at the man. "Kneel or die where you stand." Still, the man did not kneel. He kept walking. His steps were not fast, but they were fearless. He walked like someone who had already chosen his path, someone who would not turn back no matter what. The crowd grew louder, shouting, cursing, throwing more stones. The man raised one arm to shield his face, but he did not stop. His eyes, sharp and determined, shone brighter than the fire around him. At the base of the pillar, he stopped. The woman looked down at him, her breath shaking. He looked up at her. For the first time in a long time, she saw kindness. Not fear, not cruelty, not the cold hunger of the aliens, but a promise. The man placed his hand on the chain, testing its strength. The metal cut his skin, but he did not care. He turned his head toward the leader and spoke at last. His voice was calm, but it carried across the entire temple. This fate is a lie. The aliens roared in rage. The drums pounded faster. The leader lifted his staff, ready to strike the human down. The woman's eyes widened. Her heart hammered in her chest. In that moment, between life and death, between fear and hope, she knew her story was not finished, and the gods watching from the shadows remained silent. The temple shook with the sound of rage. The alien leader's staff glowed brighter, his voice echoing like thunder. The crowd of masked creatures roared, their chants now mixed with anger and fear. But the human did not move. He stood in front of the chained woman, his hand still pressed against the iron links. His eyes never left the alien leader. His voice, calm but sharp, repeated, "This fate is a lie." The words were strange to the crowd. They believed in fate. They believed in sacrifice. To them, the gods demanded blood, and the pillar demanded victims. Yet this man, this small creature from another world, spoke as if destiny could be broken. The leader's laugh was cruel. "You are nothing. One man against 1,000. One man against the gods." The human tilted his head slightly, studying the staff, the glowing marks, and then the chain that bound the woman. He did not answer the insult. He simply stepped forward. The crowd hissed and pulled back. Some raised their torches high, green fire burning hotter, but none dared to touch him. There was something in his eyes that froze them in place. The woman watched closely. Her breath was heavy, but her heart beat faster with each step he took. She had seen warriors come and die. She had seen prisoners beg and cry. But this man did not tremble, did not beg, and did not break. For the first time, she felt the weight of her chains grow lighter, not because they loosened, but because hope had returned. The leader, angry at the crowd's hesitation, pointed his staff directly at the human. A blast of green energy shot forward, striking the ground just inches from the man's feet. Stone shattered, sparks flew, smoke rose. Still, the man did not move. Gasps filled the temple. Even the woman's eyes widened. He should have run, he should have feared. But he stood, firm like the pillar itself. The leader growled, "Do you think you are strong enough to fight the gods?" Finally, the man spoke again. His voice was steady, but it carried deep anger, anger built from years of struggle. "I am not here to fight your gods," he said. "I am here to fight your chains." The crowd erupted, half in laughter, half in outrage. Some shouted for his death, others for his blood to join the sacrifice. The drums started again, faster this time, as if the temple itself demanded violence. 4 alien guards stepped forward, each holding jagged blades that gleamed under the red moonlight. They circled the man, ready to strike. The woman's breath caught. She wanted to cry out, to warn him, but her voice was lost in the noise of the crowd. The first guard rushed at him. The man sidestepped quickly, grabbing the guard's arm and twisting it until the weapon dropped. In one fluid motion, he struck the alien across the face with his elbow, sending the creature crashing to the ground. The crowd gasped again. The second guard attacked from behind, swinging his blade. The man ducked low, spinning, and kicked the alien's legs out from under him. Before the creature could rise, the man grabbed the fallen blade. Now he was armed. The woman's heart pounded as she watched. This was no ordinary human. His moves were fast, sharp, and desperate, but every strike carried purpose. The third guard lunged at him. The man blocked the strike with the stolen blade, sparks flying. He pushed forward, forcing the guard back, then struck hard, knocking the weapon away. The fourth guard hesitated, fear flashing in his glowing eyes, but the leader roared, commanding him forward. With a scream, the guard charged. This time the man did not dodge. He stepped in close, too close for the alien's long blade to strike. With brutal speed he slammed his forehead into the guard's mask. The crack echoed through the temple. The guard fell, stunned. The crowd fell silent. The human stood in the center of fallen enemies, chest rising and falling, blood dripping from a cut above his brow. But his grip on the stolen blade was steady. His eyes were steady. His resolve was unbroken. The woman's lips parted. A whisper escaped her, though no one else heard it. Why? Why would you fight for me? The man turned his head slightly, meeting her eyes. For a moment, the chaos around them seemed to vanish. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. Because no one deserves chains. The leader roared again, furious now, his staff glowing with dangerous light. You dare. You defy us in the sacred place. You will die like the rest. He slammed the staff against the ground. The temple shook violently, dust falling from the high ceiling. The statues of old gods seemed to shift, their stone eyes glowing, faintly. The crowd began to chant again, louder, desperate, demanding the man's death. But the woman no longer felt fear. Her gaze remained fixed on the human, the stranger who walked through fire and chains. She could not explain it, but she felt something rising inside her. A spark, a strength she thought she had lost forever. The man tightened his grip on the blade, raising it in defiance. His voice, sharp and powerful, cut through the storm of noise. Your gods are lies, and tonight I will prove it. The leader's staff burned brighter, green fire shooting upward, striking the ceiling with a flash that lit the temple like lightning. The air grew heavy, thick with power and danger. The crowd stepped back, afraid now of the power both in their leader's hand and in the eyes of the human. The woman's chains rattled as the ground shook again. Her breath caught, her heart racing faster. She felt it. The moment was coming. Something was about to break. The temple shook like a beast waking from a nightmare. Dust fell from the ceiling, torches burned wildly, and the green glow from the alien leader's staff painted the air with fire. The human stood firm, blade in hand, facing the crowd of furious aliens. His body was cut, his breath heavy, but his eyes were unbroken. The chained woman watched him. Her wrists bled where the iron bit deep into her skin, but for the first time, her heart felt alive. This stranger was not just fighting for survival. He was fighting for her. The leader's voice thundered through the chamber. You cannot stop the will of the gods. Her life belongs to us. The crowd roared back, stamping their feet, demanding blood. Yet beneath their anger there was something else, fear. They had seen 4 guards fall to this single man. They had seen him walk through fire and chains without hesitation. The man lifted the stolen blade, pointing it at the leader. His voice cut through the noise. Your gods are nothing. Your chains are lies, and tonight they break. The leader howled in rage. He slammed his staff on the stone floor, sending a wave of green fire rushing forward. The human leapt aside, the heat licking his skin, but he did not falter. He ran, pushing through the wave, straight toward the pillar. The crowd screamed, throwing stones and weapons at him, but he moved fast, his steps sharp and desperate. The woman's eyes widened as he reached her side. His hands, rough and bleeding, touched the chains around her wrists. The iron was thick, ancient, made not for holding, but for crushing hope. The links glowed faintly, feeding on the energy of the ritual. When the man pulled, they resisted, as if alive. He gritted his teeth, the blade in his hand striking against the chain. Sparks flew, but the iron did not break. The leader laughed. Your strength is useless. These chains are the will of the gods. The man struck again, and again. His arms burned with effort, but still he fought the steel. His voice, low but steady, reached the woman's ears. No chain lasts forever. The woman's breath caught. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that fate was not written in stone, that her death was not already chosen. Her heart whispered, "Fight." The crowd grew louder, chanting, stamping, demanding the man's blood. Guards rushed forward again, blades ready. The man spun, striking one across the chest, kicking another back. His movements were wild now, desperate but unyielding. He blocked, struck, turned, and then returned to the chain. "Hold on," he said to the woman. "Hold on to hope." He raised the blade high and brought it down with all his strength. A crack echoed through the temple. The chain groaned, bending but not yet breaking. The leader's staff blazed brighter. "Enough!" he roared. With a wave of his hand, a bolt of green lightning shot from the staff, striking the human in the back. The man cried out, his body jolting with pain, smoke rising from his clothes. He fell to one knee, gripping the chain to stop himself from collapsing. The woman's eyes filled with fire. "No," she whispered. The leader raised his staff again, ready to finish him. But the human, trembling, forced himself to stand. His voice was hoarse, but his words burned with fury. "You cannot kill what refuses to bow." With one last roar, he swung the blade down. The chain snapped, the sound rang like thunder. The woman gasped as the weight on her wrists vanished. She stumbled forward, free for the first time in what felt like forever. The crowd froze in shock. Silence fell, broken only by the crackling of torches. The leader's mask turned toward the human, his voice dripping with venom. "You have broken the ritual. You have doomed us all." The ground trembled. From the cracks in the floor, light spilled upward, wild, uncontrolled. The temple itself seemed alive now, groaning, shaking, breaking. The sacrifice had been interrupted, and the power they worshipped was now loose. The woman grabbed the human's arm, steadying him. His body shook with pain, but his eyes met hers. For the first time they stood together, not prisoner and stranger, but allies. Behind them the pillar cracked, splitting in two. The air filled with a strange energy, pulling at their skin, making their hair rise. The god's hunger was unleashed, no longer guided, no longer chained. The crowd screamed in panic, rushing back, terrified of the power they once worshipped. The green fire spread across the floor, racing toward the walls, climbing the statues. The leader slammed his staff down again, but this time the symbols on it flickered weakly. His control was slipping. The gods did not obey him anymore. The human gripped the woman's hand tightly. "We have to run." She nodded, her legs weak but her spirit burning. Together they turned, moving toward the edge of the temple. The ground cracked beneath them, stone falling away into endless darkness. The leader roared behind them, "You will not escape. You belong to fate." But the human did not look back. He pulled the woman forward, his voice sharp and certain. "No, we make our own fate." As they ran, the temple began to collapse. Statues toppled, fire roared, and the screams of the crowd filled the air. From deep below, something ancient cried out, a voice of power, angry at being denied. The woman clutched the man's hand tighter, her breath ragged, her heart wild. She was no longer the sacrifice. She was free. And beside her was the one who had defied gods to save her. The chains were broken. But the real battle was only beginning. The temple was no longer a place of order. It had become a storm. Stone walls cracked and split apart. Statues of the old gods toppled, shattering on the floor. The red moon's glow poured through holes in the ceiling, mixing with the wild green fire that spread across the ground. Screams of panic filled the air as the alien crowd scattered, their chants broken into cries of fear. The human and the woman stood side by side, hands clasped tightly, chains shattered at their feet. The air around them vibrated with unstable power. The ritual had been destroyed, and the god's energy was loose. "Move!" the man shouted, pulling her forward. They ran. Behind them, the sacrificial pillar split down the middle with a thunderous crack. From its base, glowing light poured out, flooding the chamber like liquid fire. The woman's legs trembled, weak from her time in chains, but her spirit was stronger now. She matched his pace, refusing to let go of his hand. The leader roared behind them, his staff blazing with desperate energy. "You cannot run. The gods demand her blood." The man did not turn back. His voice cut through the chaos. The gods demand nothing. The woman's chest burned as she ran. Every breath was a knife, every step a struggle, but her heart pounded with a strength she thought she had lost. For the first time in so long, she was not running toward death. She was running toward life. The temple's grand doors loomed ahead, heavy slabs of stone carved with monstrous faces. But as they neared, a violent tremor shook the ground. The ceiling cracked open, raining stone. The path to freedom began to crumble. Faster, the man urged. A group of alien guards, still loyal to their leader, appeared near the doors, weapons raised. Their masks glowed with faint fire, and their voices rose in a battle cry. The woman stumbled, fear tightening her chest. She was unarmed, weak. But the man raised his stolen blade, his eyes sharp, his breath steady despite his wounds. "Stay behind me," he said. The guards charged. The first swung his blade downward, but the man blocked with his own, sparks flying. He pushed back hard, kicking the guard in the chest and sending him sprawling. Another slashed at his side, grazing his ribs. He gritted his teeth, spun, and drove his elbow into the guard's face. The woman cried out as one of the guards rushed toward her. But before the blade could strike, the man's arm shot out, pulling her behind him. His stolen blade cut through the alien's weapon, shattering it. With a swift strike, he forced the guard to the ground. The last two hesitated. They looked at the collapsing temple, at the cracks of light bursting through the floor, and fear filled their glowing eyes. They dropped their weapons and ran. The path to the doors was clear, but the doors themselves were massive, far too heavy to move by human hands. The woman's heart sank. "We'll never open them." The man stared at the carved stone, his jaw set. "Then we break them." He pressed his hands against the door, muscles straining, but it did not move. The cracks in the ceiling widened above them. Flames leapt higher, swallowing fallen bodies. The leader's voice roared behind them, closer now. "You cannot leave. She is ours." The woman's eyes darted around. Her gaze fell on a long crack running up the side of the doorframe, glowing faintly with green energy, the same energy that had been meant to kill her. "Wait!" she shouted, grabbing the man's arm. She pressed her palm against the glowing crack. At once, the energy leapt to her skin, crawling up her arm like fire. She gasped in pain, but she did not pull away. The door shuddered. The man stared at her, alarmed. "What are you doing?" Her voice shook, but her eyes burned with determination. "If they meant to use me as the key to their gods, then maybe I am the key to their prison." The crack widened. Light exploded outward, racing along the surface of the doors. The monstrous faces carved into the stone screamed silently, their features twisting as the power flowed through them. With a deafening boom, the doors split down the middle. The night. Air rushed in, cold, fresh, alive. The woman collapsed, falling to her knees. The man caught her quickly, pulling her up. "Come on," he urged, lifting her to her feet. Together they stumbled out into the open night. Behind them, the temple collapsed fully. The roof caved in, swallowing the sacrificial pillar and the leader's screams. Fire and dust burst outward. As the temple sank into the ground like a dying beast, the two of them fell into the dirt, gasping for breath. For a moment, neither spoke. The sky above was wide and endless, the stars burning bright, the red moon still watching. The woman's body ached, her arms and legs shaking. But she was free. She could feel the wind on her face, not the cold chains of the pillar. She could breathe without the stench of smoke and fear. The man dropped his broken blade to the ground. His chest rose and fell heavily, his body cut and burned. But his eyes, when he turned to her, were alive. "You're free now," he said softly. She looked at him, her voice trembling. "You risked everything. For me." "Why?" He was silent for a moment. Then he looked at the burning ruins of the temple. "Because someone had to. If we accept their fate, if we bow to their chains, then we are already dead." Her eyes shone with something she hadn't felt in years. Belief. But before she could answer, a new sound rose from the ruins. A deep, low growl. The ground shook Beneath them, dust rising into the night air. The man's hand tightened on hers. He pulled her up, his eyes scanning the darkness. "The temple may be gone," he said, "but what we woke up isn't finished." From the rubble a shape began to rise, huge, glowing, and angry. The escape had only begun. The night was not silent. The ruins of the temple burned behind them, flames crawling into the sky like angry claws. Smoke rolled across the valley, and the sound of stone collapsing echoed like thunder. But louder than the fire, louder than the ruin, was the sound of movement. From the shattered temple rose a monstrous shape. It was no priest, no guard. It was something ancient, something born from the broken ritual. Its body glowed with green, fire, its eyes like molten stone. Each step shook the earth, its voice a deep growl that seemed to crawl inside the bones of every living thing. The woman froze. Her legs shook as she clutched the man's hand tighter. What is that?" The man's jaw tightened. His eyes never left the monster. The gods they worshipped. Or what's left of them. The beast roared, a sound so fierce the trees at the edge of the valley trembled. Aliens who had fled the temple stopped and screamed, some falling to their knees in terror. They had wanted their god to rise, but not like this. The man pulled the woman's hand sharply. "We can't fight it, run!" They stumbled into the forest, leaving the burning ruins behind. The shadows of tall trees swallowed them, branches stretching high, blotting out the moonlight. Their feet hit damp soil, their breath heavy, their hearts racing. Behind them, the monster moved. Every step was a quake, every roar a storm. The forest shook as it followed, trees cracking, birds screaming as they fled into the night sky. The woman's lungs burned. Every step felt heavier, every breath sharper. She had only just escaped her chains and her body was weak, but she did not let go of the man's hand. She would not. Branches tore at their skin as they pushed deeper into the woods. In the man's view, eyes darted constantly, searching for paths, searching for hope. But hope was hard to find. The beast was faster than it should have been. Despite its massive body, it moved through the forest like a shadow, green fire glowing between the trees. Its growl grew louder, closer. The man stopped suddenly, pulling her down with him. They pressed against a fallen log, hearts pounding, breaths held. The forest glowed as the beast passed, its green light spilling across the branches. The ground trembled with each step. Its head turned slowly, massive eyes searching, its breath heavy and hot, like fire rolling over stone. The woman squeezed her eyes shut. Her hands shook. She prayed the beast could not smell her fear. The man held her hand firm, steady, telling her without words, "Stay quiet. Stay strong." Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the beast moved deeper into the forest, its growl fading. The woman let out the breath she had been holding, her body sagging against the log. But before she could speak, the man shook his head. "No, it's not gone, it's hunting us." He pulled her up. They ran again. The forest grew darker, the air colder. Shadows twisted, branches bent like claws. Strange sounds whispered around them, the cries of unseen creatures, the crackle of leaves under footsteps that weren't theirs. The woman realized the forest itself was alive, disturbed by the broken ritual. And it wasn't just the beast. From the darkness, smaller figures moved. The surviving aliens had followed, their masks glowing faintly. They wanted revenge. Their god was loose, but they would not let the sacrifice and the stranger escape. The man cursed under his breath. "They're driving us to it." The woman stumbled but pushed forward. Her voice was sharp even through fear. "Then we turn." The man's eyes narrowed. He knew she was right. Running straight meant death. They veered left, cutting through a slope where rocks jutted out of the earth. The aliens shouted, their voices echoing through the trees. The woman's foot slipped on loose stone, but the man caught her before she fell. They pressed against the rock wall, listening. Shadows moved above them. Aliens with glowing eyes crept through the trees, weapons in hand. The beast's growl shook the ground again. Closer now. The woman whispered, "We can't fight them all." The man's grip tightened on his broken blade. His voice was low, fierce. "We don't have to. We just have to survive." He pointed to a narrow path ahead, where the trees thinned and a fallen bridge crossed a deep chasm. "There! Move!" They sprinted toward it, branches whipping against their faces. Behind them, the aliens shouted, chasing. Ahead of them, the broken bridge swayed in the wind, its ropes frayed, its wood rotting. The woman stopped, panic in her voice. "It will collapse." The man looked at her, his eyes burning with defiance. "Better to fall trying than die in chains." He stepped onto the bridge first. The wood groaned, ropes straining under his weight. He reached back, pulling her forward. She swallowed her fear and stepped on. The bridge shook violently. Below them yawned a bottomless pit, darkness swallowing all light. The aliens reached the edge of the forest. Their glowing eyes lit the trees as they shouted in rage. Some drew bows, arrows glowing with green fire. The man raised his blade, shielding. The woman as arrows flew, striking the wood. One arrow sliced through a rope. The bridge jerked, tilting dangerously. The woman cried out, gripping the ropes tightly. The man pulled her forward, step by step, until they reached the middle. The ropes creaked, strands snapping one by one, and then the ground shook. The beast appeared at the tree line, its massive body glowing, eyes blazing with fire. It roared, the sound tearing through the night. The woman's heart stopped. The monster stepped toward the bridge. The aliens scattered in terror, but not far enough. The beast crushed them underfoot, tearing through the forest as if the trees were paper. The bridge shook violently from the quake. The ropes snapped further. The man's voice was sharp, commanding. "Run!" They ran across the collapsing bridge, wood breaking under their feet. Behind them, the beast roared again, its shadow filling the sky. The final rope snapped. The bridge fell, and with it, the human and the woman plunged into darkness. The world fell into silence. For a moment, the woman thought death had claimed them. She felt nothing beneath her feet, only the rushing wind tearing past her ears. The bridge had snapped, sending both of them into the pit's endless darkness. But then, impact. They crashed onto a slope of rock and slid downward. Dust and broken wood spun around them. The man wrapped his arms around her, shielding her body from the jagged edges. The slide seemed endless until finally they slammed onto a flat surface below, hard but survivable. Pain spread through her body. She coughed, dust filling her lungs. But when she opened her eyes, she realized something strange. They had not fallen into endless darkness. They had fallen into light. The pit below the bridge was not empty. It was a hidden chamber. Its walls glowed with symbols etched deep into the stone, pulsing with faint blue light. Strange machines, long abandoned, lay half buried in the ground. The air was warmer here, charged with energy that tingled against their skin. The man groaned, pushing himself up. Blood streaked his brow, but his eyes were still sharp. He looked around, scanning the chamber with cautious wonder. The woman sat up slowly, staring at the glowing symbols. They weren't alien carvings. They were older, far older. "What is this place?" she whispered. The man touched one of the glowing walls. His voice was low, almost reverent. "Not a tomb, not a temple, a prison." The woman's heart tightened. The word tasted heavy, dangerous. "Prison?" He nodded. "This is where they locked it away. The thing above us. Their God." The chamber shook faintly as if answering his words. The beast's roar echoed from far above, its rage shaking the ground. Dust rained down from cracks in the ceiling, but the chamber held firm. The woman rose unsteadily, her fingers brushing the glowing symbols. As her skin touched the carvings, the light flared brighter. The machines hummed, waking from their long sleep. The man turned to her sharply. "It responds to you." She pulled her hand back, startled. Why me? He stared at her, eyes narrowing as realization grew. You weren't chosen for sacrifice because you were weak. They chose you because they feared you. You're not a victim, you're a key. Her breath caught. His words felt heavy, true though she wanted to deny them. A key. To what? The machines around them whirred louder, lights flowing through the walls. The air buzzed with power. In the center of the chamber, a circular platform rose slowly, dust spilling from its edges. The woman stepped back, fear filling her, but the man's hand steadied her shoulder. Don't be afraid, whatever this is, it was meant for you. The platform flared with light, projecting an image into the air. A figure appeared, not a god, not an alien, but a recording. A tall being with a calm face, its voice echoing through the chamber. To those who find this place, it said, know that we once bound the creature of fire and shadow. It fed on fear, on worship, on chains. It was no god, only a parasite. The woman's eyes widened, the man's jaw clenched. The voice continued. We built this prison to hold it, but power corrupts. Those who followed us twisted our warnings into worship. They called it a god. They offered blood to feed it. And they chained their own people to pillars, never knowing the truth. The woman trembled. Her life, her suffering, all the sacrifices she had witnessed. It was all built on a lie. The man's voice was sharp, filled with anger. They built their empire on fear. The image flickered. One day, someone will rise who can end it. One who can touch the prison and unlock its final seal. To that one, we leave our gift. The platform dimmed. In its center, a small device appeared, glowing faintly blue. The man and the woman stared at it. Neither moved at first. The woman whispered, "It's meant for me." The man nodded slowly. Yes, that's why they wanted you dead, because they knew if you touched this that you could destroy their god forever. Her hands shook as she reached toward the device. The moment her fingers brushed its surface, the chamber pulsed with light. The walls glowed brighter, the machines roared awake, and the ground trembled. Visions filled her mind, images of the beast's true form, feeding on chains and sacrifices, growing stronger with every ritual. She saw generations of her people, enslaved, their hopes stolen. She saw the truth. She had never been a chosen victim. She had always been a chosen weapon. Her breath shook as the vision faded. She looked at the man, her eyes wide. I can stop it. I can end all of this. His eyes softened, filled with pride and urgency. Then we fight together, but first we survive. Above them, the beast roared again, louder this time. The chamber trembled, cracks spreading across the ceiling. Stones fell, smashing into the machines. The woman clutched the glowing device tightly. It's coming. The man raised his broken blade, though his body was battered and bleeding. His voice was steady. Then let it come. We're ready. The chamber door cracked open on the far side, revealing a tunnel leading deeper into darkness. The woman looked at it, then back at the man. Her voice was sharp. We run now, or we die here. He nodded, grabbing her hand. Together they sprinted into the tunnel as the chamber collapsed behind them, the roar of the beast shaking the world. The truth had been revealed. She was no longer a sacrifice. She was the key, but the cost of using that key was yet to come. The tunnel was narrow and dark, the air heavy with dust, and the echo of collapsing stone. The man and the woman ran, their footsteps pounding against the uneven floor. Behind them, the beast's roar filled the world, shaking the tunnel walls. The glowing device in the woman's hand pulsed with light, guiding their way. Each pulse seemed to call to the prison walls, awakening something deep within the earth. The man glanced at it, his face grim but determined. That thing, does it give you power? He asked. The woman shook her head. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. Not power, truth. It shows me how to end this. They burst into a vast chamber larger than the one before. Its ceiling was jagged, broken open to the night sky. The red moon glared down, and through the gap above the beast emerged. It was enormous now, its body twisted with fire and shadow. Chains of green energy clung to its form, rattling with every step. But they were not to bind it. They were to feed it. The false gods had tied their people's fear to this monster, and now it was free, stronger than ever. The woman stumbled back, clutching the device to her chest. The man stepped in front of her, blade raised, though he knew it was useless against such a giant. The beast's eyes burned like suns. Its voice boomed, shaking the ground. "You cannot run. You cannot fight. You belong to me." The woman's heart raced, but the device glowed brighter. She could feel the truth inside her. She was the one meant to sever the beast's chains forever. The man turned his head toward her, his voice low but fierce. "This is your choice, not theirs, not fate's, yours." Her chest tightened. Fear pressed against her, but hope pushed harder. She stepped forward, holding the device high. Its blue light clashed with the beast's green fire, filling the chamber with a storm of colors. The beast roared, swinging one massive arm. The ground split, sending a shockwave toward them. The man grabbed her, pulling her aside. The blast, tearing open the stone where they had stood. He coughed, blood on his lips, but his grip on her arm was strong. "Do it, end it." The woman stared at the device, then at the beast. Her chains had once bound her to death. Now she would bind death itself. She pressed the device into the ground. At once, the chamber erupted with light. The walls blazed with blue symbols brighter than the moon. The chains that fed the beast flickered, weakening. Its roar turned from fury to fear. "No," it thundered. "I am eternal. I am God," the man shouted back, his voice rising above the chaos. "You're nothing but a parasite?" The beast lunged, its massive body crashing through the chamber. The man ran forward, his broken blade raised. It was not enough to kill the creature, but enough to draw its attention. The woman's breath caught. "No!" But the man's eyes, locked with hers, sharp and fearless. "You're the key. I'll buy you the time." He leapt onto the beast's arm, driving his blade deep into its flesh of fire and shadow. The beast screamed, shaking violently, trying to throw him off. The woman focused on the device. She felt its energy pour into her, visions flashing again. The prison's seal, the parasite's true weakness, it did not feed on strength. It fed on worship, on fear. And only by rejecting it completely could it die. Her voice rose, strong and unbroken. "You are not God, you are nothing, and tonight you end." The device blazed with pure light. The blue energy surged upward, wrapping around the beast. Its chains snapped one by one, breaking with thunderous cracks. The fire in its body flickered, fading. The beast screamed, thrashing wildly. It smashed its arm against the walls, throwing the man off. He crashed to the ground hard, blood streaking across his face. But he smiled through the pain, watching the woman stand tall. The last chain snapped. The beast's body split apart, its fire scattering like sparks in the wind. Its roar echoed one final time, then faded into silence. The chamber went still. The woman collapsed to her knees, the device dimming in her hands. Her chest heaved, tears filling her eyes. It was over. The god was gone. She turned quickly to the man, crawling to his side. His body was broken, but his eyes were alive. He looked at her and managed a faint, tired smile. "You did it," he whispered. Her tears fell onto his face. "No, we did it." He chuckled weakly, then coughed. Defied fate. Outside, the red moon slowly faded into pale white. The smoke cleared, stars shining bright above the ruins. The forest was silent again, the air fresh and free of the parasite's corruption. The woman looked at the horizon, her chest heavy but her spirit burning. She was no longer the chained sacrifice. She was the one who ended centuries of fear. The man leaning against her shoulder spoke softly. "What will you do now?" She held the device close, its glow fading but still alive. Her voice was steady, filled with new fire. "If fate was a lie, then I will write the truth. No more chains, no more gods, only freedom. The man's eyes closed, but his smile lingered. Good. That's worth fighting for. The woman looked up at the stars, her heart unbroken. The night was no longer red. It was endless, filled with possibilities. And though the beast was gone, her journey had only just begun.